I want to talk about education first, but I want to get back to this Web 2.5 issue because you don't like Web 2.5, and I want to go deeper on that because you just touched on it and it's important. So, 12 years ago, I quit my job in finance and I started a YouTube channel. And I wanted to have conversations with people. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I realized I was actually turning into an educator because, like you said, most people go to YouTube to learn something.
Yes.
And funny enough, a lot of people are going to TikTok lately to learn stuff. Like it's a lot more learning going on than you might think. And so how do I do this is one of the things that people want to know on YouTube. And so unbeknownst to me, I soon became an educator, and we were democratizing information that you just couldn't find anywhere. And the mainstream media would never have some of the weirdos I've had on my show. I think you'll qualify as a weirdo too. And so, we were at the forefront of democratizing information in the Web 2 sense, and it was just amazing for me to watch. And it's weird how we put a lot of people on the map because we had them on the show 10 years ago and would sit down for these long conversations that were highly educational. And so I got into this space not by intention. And so I started to learn a little bit more about the space. And if you talk to anybody who's been onboarded into the crypto space in the last few years, most of them will say, I locked myself in a room and I watched YouTube videos. Dan Tapiero said this. He runs Tenti Holdings. He's an investor in you guys. Exactly. And he's amazing. And he was on one of my Academy calls the other night, and he said, I locked myself in a room for 6 months and watched all the videos. Michael Saylor, who owns billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, said he did the same thing in 2020, and he watched a bunch of my videos with Andreas Antonopoulos that I had on the show back in 15 and 17. And so I learned a lot about education. I just want to say a couple things that I learned is that I later created an academy where I would teach via Zoom, even 8 years ago, people to learn things and then to take action and fulfill assignments. And I learned one thing about digital education, and I still haven't seen anyone, except maybe you guys, crack it in this space, and I want to see where it goes. But I learned that you need content and you need community as well. And this is something that I think a lot of platforms have missed. And I'm not gonna point fingers, but sometimes you go to Udemy and you can get a course for $7, and the problem is nobody finishes those courses. And what I've found is that you have to create a community, which I guess is culture. And then you have to be creating content, not just the education, but content seems to matter as well.
Absolutely.
To complement that. And then, of course, some type of accountability that probably comes with community. And it's something that I think is still missing from our digital education out there. And I'm still waiting for someone to crack it, especially in this space. We spent the last couple of years teaching people in crypto and DeFi, and we've done an amazing job, but it's hard to scale because I'm creating, these micro communities. And it works really well, and we pull people from all over the world and they feel like they're family. But the person or group that cracks that, and I'd love to help out in some way, is gonna find a way to bring all these things together.
I think we can look at AI as a very interesting tool for that as well, because there is a sort of correlation between the quality of education and the sort of customization of education to the individual, in terms of how you basically get towards not just better economic circumstances and broader GDP improvements and so on, but also in terms of the attention that you get. And you can scale that in a school. So you go to a more expensive school where you can basically have one teacher and 5 kids or 8 kids. But most people are in ratios of 25, 30, or maybe even 50, depending on which country you are, or maybe even hundreds, right? And it's just harder. And so it's more about sort of how you learn and so on. It's also typically content that's not interactive. So AI definitely plays a role in this. But AI can only, I think, customize up to a certain point, because the content is still individualized, because we are diverse people, right? I mean, we can see this in our families, right? I have 3 kids, they're completely different, all 3 of them, right? The way they grew up, the circumstances in which they grew up, almost identical. In fact, they even went to the first school, same school in the beginning. And yet they are 3 entirely different persons that are unrecognizable, other than from the look, that they're from the family in terms of their interests or what they do. Right? And I think this is not a story of just us, I think it's a story of everyone. So we're incredibly diverse people. That means not everyone learns exactly the same way. And that's what's one of the big challenges that we have in schools. Because in schools, we have a teacher that teaches you one way, not because the teacher isn't capable, but he or her has his own way of expressing it, whether they're visual or verbal, whatever it is. And so the cohort of kids inside the class that understands this teacher well, they do well. But the other cohort that doesn't understand it at all. They're like, I don't know what this is, or I can't interpret it as well. But the difference in a system like that, those that are left out, they, even though they have the sort of ability, start to feel stupid. And it impacts also their self-esteem, and it impacts their sort of thinking as to what they could do. And then they get put into this box of, you're not that good. Because, in reality, what probably happened is that the way that that teacher was teaching you just didn't speak to you, because people just learn differently. And you see this with famous stories about, geniuses in the world like Einstein. I mean, I think the story is that Einstein was a terrible, terrible, terrible student, according to his teacher. But, look at that, right? So I think there is that element there, that teachers making more content and getting a sort of also more income. See, that's the other thing. If a teacher actually makes more value and more income into space, well, guess what happens? They will enter the job, right? Instead, because it's such a poorly paid job, unfortunately, it ends up becoming the last option in many cases. And that's not a good outcome. You don't want the last option to be the one teaching, teaching your kids, right? Also, I think education from a formation standpoint is actually one of the most important ways in which we distribute values and ideas, right? In the age of AI, information broadly is not what you should be teaching. It should be these things that matter to us as people, because information is at our fingertips anyway, right? You just need to know how to use tools. Whether it's a version of OpenAI, ChatGPT, whether it's something else, there's going to be thousands and thousands of AI tools are springing up. And with TinyTap, what they're doing is that teachers create content. Eventually, that kind of content will also be translated into AIs that can extract sort of the essence of this content, and then basically create some interesting content that is maybe customized for one student or the other. Like, all of this stuff is eventually going to happen anyway, right? So we'll have this kind of content that is broadly available, and we can have access to that. So what is it then that we should be teaching our kids? It's not going to be how you can learn math better or how you can memorize history dates better. It's going to be much more fundamental than that, right? And so one of the things that I think is going to be important about values, or whether it's philosophy or whether it's concepts, things that make us human, and also things that sort of identify with, I think, what makes us naturally human, which is creativity.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.